Fantastic.
It's really cool. Right, it's 7:15. I've got 4. I haven't had a coffee yet. Half an hour till sunrise. Just to show you. Bye! Bye! Just to show you the clobber. So, most important of all is the coffee. Gloves, GoPro, inner gloves, because the water's getting really cold. Food, socks, there'll be socks everywhere. Glass bottom bucket. Waders. Bag, just go over your shoulder while you're moving through. Digging kit. Various rakes, scoopers, change of clothes, very important, just in case it all goes wrong. More coffee in the front. I think that's it. I'll see you at the river. It's a bit of a rigmarole what I'm wearing, but to be honest, when you're in the water, you don't really notice, and you actually feel quite liberated, even though it's really hard to get down to the river wearing this kit. So basically, these are my third set of waders. There's some decent ones finally, neoprene, lovely and warm, and I've got waterproof gloves. It's all about just trying to keep dry really this time of year. As soon as you get wet, that means you start getting cold, and then you know the amount of time that you can spend in the water is cut really short. So inside my waterproof gauntlet gloves, I've got some warm woolly mitts. I've got several pairs of socks, a couple of pairs of trousers. My bag, because when I'm walking upstream, if I find something really good, I don't want to have to keep dropping things off and go back. So I'm on the move. Let's get a good bag and a little pocket for all the treasures. Glass bottom bucket. This is the key to everything really. It's a piece of Perspex, homemade job. And it just gives you that window into the water. Even quite slowly moving water is full of reflections, and it blurs everything that's below. So as soon as you put that glass on there, it's a window, and you can see exactly what's going on in the bottom of the river. Also, I have the old GoPro, so I try and do a bit of footage as I'm moving through, a bucket eye view, and my trusty chip pan for scooping. We've tried lots of different variations, but this seems to work quite well. Anything small and beads and things don't escape once they're in there. you've got them, because nothing is certain until you've got that. You can see it on the riverbed, but nothing's certain until it's out of the water and in the bag. And then we've got finally my sharp rubber tool. The only downside with this latest version is it is rather sharp, so I've got to be careful not to pierce my waders. But it's great for hooking out glass out of the riverbed. And that's kind of it, I think. It's all a bit daft, but when you're in the river it kind of makes sense. All the gubbins that I've got, the bucket, the gloves, the trousers, the socks, the gloves inside the gloves, the waders of course. There's something about seeing it in the silt that just, I don't know, it just captures your imagination. And that's what I'm looking for when I'm out in the countryside. I think I found a leg toy, but it's whether I'm going to be able to get it is the question. Right. I just can't get it. It's so hard to scoop things. What we got? We have got a headless soldier. What do you think?
Yeah, maybe.
It's always a bit cold, but when it gets really cold, then you start losing the feeling in your hands and you start losing the feeling in your feet. You stop focusing on what you're looking at and you're focusing on chilblains, I suppose.
So tell me about the ring on your hand there. I believe you found that somewhere.
I did, yes. I think this has to be one of my most special finds. I wear it pretty much every day, and I'll never forget finding it. It was literally under the carpet, but I guess you could say the river carpet. Here in Hampshire, we're in the trout streams, and everything is about the trout. You know, it's a world-renowned river for fly fishing, and the waters are managed. And the weed is cut every summer. I think about 3 times. They come in with the sides, and they cut across. And you know when they've done it because you can see these parallel lines all down the riverbed. But it's done to allow the fish to be able to swim around freely, but also to manage the levels. And last year we hadn't had much rain, and they decided to leave the weeds as they were. And eventually they grew so heavy that they started ripping themselves out. And there were patches on the riverbed, bare patches of gravel that weren't there the previous week. And I jumped in, and this beautiful ring was just laying there on the gravel. The first ring I'd ever found. And yeah, really special moment, especially when I picked it up and I realised that it had an inscription. And it reads, souvenir, and I thought that was a bit strange, but I later realised that it's French souvenir, and there are two numbers, 14 and 15, and a cartouche with initials inscribed, and it's a very personal piece. It turns out that it's a piece of trench art, and it would have been made by a soldier in the trenches in France, and sold amongst the ranks, I think, in the trenches for pin money, and a soldier would have inscribed his initials, or perhaps the initials of a loved one, and sent it home. And goodness knows how it ended up in the river, but I feel very lucky that I found it. If somebody said to me, what are your favourite finds, when it comes to bottles, it has to be inks, definitely, all day long. I love them. And you know, these here, these are the ones that you come across most often, the penny ink, and it's the cheapest of cheap glass. It would have been blown by hand into a mould, and then snapped off the blowpipe, and that sharp burr slip, as they call it, would have been bunged with a cork, and it was sold for a penny, and it was, you know, affordable. But the bottle, the glass itself, is just so pretty. It's always, you know, it's full of bubbles. It's rough. It's aqua coloured because they didn't bother to use decolorising agents, because that would have increased the cost. But yeah, this is a penny ink, and it's an 8-side octagonal penny ink, and that's the ink bottle I come across most. This one, however, is a little bit more special, and yeah, they call it an igloo, pretty obvious reasons. Again, it's another burr slip bottle, but it's made by Blackwoods, and Blackwoods were by appointment to Her Majesty Queen Victoria. So it's a little bit more expensive, this ink, and it's a lovely forest green, and that I just found a little bit of green poking out of the silt, and yeah, that was really exciting to discover that. I've got a few of these lovely bottles, and what I love about inks is there's just so many different types. I mean, I don't think you'd ever collect them all. So many colours, shapes. Here we go, here's another one, a square ribbed ink. This one's got these little grooves here for resting your pen, and that's lovely. Lovely aqua colour there. It's all to do with the iron content, I think, in the glass mix that creates that lovely colour. This one's known as a boat ink, and this is another very, very common bottle, actually. However, this one's got swirls in it, and that's something that the collectors love, because it was a cross-contamination in the mix of the glass, and it was just another example of how cheaply these bottles were produced. So, here's another one, a big one. Honestly, I've got, how many of these these octagonal penny inks? I've got probably about 20, and they're all unique. You'll never find two the same. Another type of penny ink is what the Brits call the pork pie, and that's a stoneware. So that was another option. You know, you could either go for glass, or you could still go for stoneware, and this was thrown by hand. And again, they're unique. They're all these beautiful earthy colours. Salt glaze, they would have chucked some salt into the kiln, and it gives you that lovely pork pie colour. This one's got a scuff. Look, somebody scuffed that on the way in or out on the way to the kiln. But here's a master ink. That was a surprise to find in the river. It was actually in about 8 inches of water. It's incredible, really, because these earthy colours just look so at home in the gravel here, and it's the perfect disguise, really, especially when the water's really fast. You can't, you know, from the riverbank, you'd never know it was there. It's been there over 100 years. I don't know if this one hasn't got a maker on it, but they're normally by Denby, Bourne. This one, actually, look. It's got fingerprints. That's a real connection with whoever made that master ink. And I say master ink, it's got a pouring lip. Sadly, slightly broken. Otherwise perfect. What a shame, but I still love it. So this would have been for filling up inkwells, maybe at school or in an office. I could talk about inks all day. Aqua Glass is something which I think is magical. And this is a sort of a bit of a giant. It's quite an unusual bottle. But what I love about it is that you've got that satin finish where it's been tumbling around in the river for a very long time. It's made in a 3-part mould, this one actually, and it's quite early. It's probably, I reckon, about 1870, something like that. And it's got the wonkiest, wobbliest lip that was applied as a separate process. My oldest bottle has to be this bottle. When I spotted that in the river, I knew what it was straight away. There was no mistaking this as being a free-blown bottle. So whereas all these burst lip bottles here, these little Aqua Glass bottles here, these are all produced in a mould. So you'll see a mould line somewhere. You can see it there, here. This bottle, however, was just produced with a blob of glass and blown completely by hand, and it's gloriously wonky. Another indicator of the date is this pontil mark, this scar here at the bottom, which indicates that it was a bottle produced before 1860, and in this case I would say that this is a late 18th century bottle, and it was an expensive thing, and it's flint glass. So whereas with these we've got the aqua because they just left the glass to be the colour that it was going to be, here we have something very different and very special. Okay, so I can't talk about wading for bottles in rivers without talking about the Cod Bottle. And the Cod Bottle was a very popular bottle in these parts. I come across them all the time and mostly broken. And there's a reason for that. And I'm sure that many of you will know about the Cod Marble. And it was the invention of Hiram Cod. He launched his first patent in 1870, and it was a solution for bottling fizzy drinks in thick glass with a marble, and the bottle would have been filled upside down, and the pressure of the carbonated drink would force the marble into the neck to seal it. And then when you wanted to open the bottle to drink, you would push down the marble, and then if you wanted to reseal the bottle again, I understand that you put your thumb over it, give it a good shake, and the marble would go straight back into the neck and seal the bottle again. But it was a solution to bottling fizzy drinks at a time when the bottles up until that point for carbonated squash and lemonade and that kind of thing, up until that point they'd been in torpedo bottles that had to be stored on their sides. It's lovely to find them whole because they were generally smashed by kids at the time, and for generations afterwards who want those marbles, gaming marbles. But the famous bottle, the bottle that this area is well known for in terms of the Cod Bottle, is the Blue Marble Cod, which was produced by a company called Wilfred Andrews from the very end of the 19th century, up until the Cod Bottle kind of became obsolete in the 30s, I guess. And this is a rare bottle because it has this wonderful cobalt blue marble, and it's a really special moment when I find a Cod Bottle with a blue marble. I just thought I'd share with you some of the characters that I come across in the river. I've been very lucky this year. These lead toys are just so reminiscent of an era. Mostly soldiers, but also farm animals. Over the decades, they soften and wear away slowly and elegantly, I guess you could say. I don't know how these have all ended up in the river, honestly. I don't know, you can imagine them getting swept up, dropped on the floor and getting swept up and chucked out with the half ash, along with the marbles and the beads and the other bits and bobs that you come across. My favourite, well, two favourites actually. First one, this lovely horsey, and I posted that on Instagram, and I think the feeling was that this is quite old, and it's probably 18th century. As is this strange little wood chopper. I didn't find that, my partner found that. Donated it to the cause. What else have I got in here? Oh, look. I wonder what that was from. I've talked quite a bit about Aqua Glass, but sometimes, if you're really lucky, you get a warning bottle, a poison bottle. Victorian poisons, not to be taken. These bottles were designed specifically against accidental consumption of contents, I guess you could say. So when you're in your dark Victorian home in the middle of the night fumbling around for something in the cupboard, you will feel this bottle. You will know it's a poison bottle. It's embossed, it has ribbing on it, and it's very colourful, and it's shaped, and you're not going to mistake that. You know that this has probably got, well, not to be taken was the top level poison, so it could have been anything. It could have been arsenic. And they are beautiful, and I have been very lucky to find quite a few. All the shapes. This one's probably iodine, maybe, I don't know. Again, it's got the ribbing on it. Others, this one's called a coffin poison because of the shape. And these are known as hobnails. These lovely bumpy crosses, unmistakable. Sometimes, if you're really lucky, you will spot cobalt, and it will probably be a poison bottle. And like the ink bottles, this is a major collecting area, and you can imagine, I mean, they just look so beautiful, and you know, against natural light, they're wonderful. And yeah, if I find a poison bottle, I am always very, very happy. Here we go, here's another one. This one's a bit later. This one doesn't have not to be taken. The later ones, they drop that. And the not to be taken was something that still had to be said, but it would have been on the label here on the back. But you've still got the same principle. Here's some more little ones. And a nice rectangular one here. The blue is weird, actually. I've chosen a few to show you here. But actually I find few blue ones. Most of the ones I find are green. And the most common of those are these hexagonal bottles with not to be taken. Yeah, you can just zone out. I'm in my happy place. You forget about everything. You forget about all the stuff that needs doing at home and all the stuff to do around the house, and all the little things are just gone, and you're totally in that moment, and it's brilliant. And yeah, it's very, very addictive.